Now, one thing that we need to understand is that when we draw angles in standard position, they always start from the same place. And then basically the terminal side position is actually what determines the angle, but it's not just the terminal side position, but also the measurement between the two rays, right? The initial and terminal side of the angle. How much of degrees, for example, you are located between them. Which means sometimes you have angles in standard position that will have the same position for the terminal side, but they are not the same angles. That's not what I want to cover. I actually want to cover this. Okay, yeah, coterminal angle. So we are up to coterminal angle. So those are angles that have both initial and terminal sides the same. We know that all angles have the same initial side. They all start from the same position in standard position. But what makes the difference between them is the terminal side and how much angle between the two sides, right? Now, even though angles could be different, they may have also the same position for terminal side. One example of this, for example, let me use the angle, I use one quadrantal angle of positive 180 and negative 180. Obviously, these are two different angles, right? They're not the same. They may have the same amount of space between the two rays, the two sides, but they are not the same because they're going through different directions. But you can see that if I were to draw 180 degrees positive in standard position, I start from the same place, which is here, rotate up to here. So my terminal side is going to be a quadrantal angle, which means it's in the negative part of the horizontal axis. So this is a positive 180. Now, if I'm going to look at the negative 180, it means I start from the same place, right here. It has the same initial side, but I have it to rotate in the negative direction for angles, which means this direction. But I also going to end up in the same position for the terminal side. So negative 180 and positive 180 is what we call coterminal angles. They have the initial and terminal sides exactly in the same position, but they are not the same angles, right? They are different angles. It just happens that in the standard position, the location of both are the same. Okay, so the textbook also show you another example there. So you can see that 600 degrees is coterminal with 240 degrees. And the textbook also shows you another example, which is two positive angles that are coterminal, 240 and 600. Notice that 600 going more than one full rotation of the circle, right? So it starts from the same position right here, but notice that it's going one full rotation of the circle and has to keep going more. So there are angles that go full rotation, two full rotations or more. So this is an example of them. And there is angle that doesn't even get a full rotation, which is the other angle, which is 240. But regardless of how many rotations they going through in the standard position, you can see that they all end in the same place, which is this. So which make them coterminal angles. So what we're going to see next is how to determine, do I have always to draw an angle in standard position to get what is a coterminal angle with another angle? And the answer is no. Obviously, because given a certain terminal side, let's say I have a terminal side for something. Let's say this is the terminal side of my angle. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. So I'm not even drawing the rotation. But I know I'm going to get another angle to also end here if I add 360 to that angle, right? So if I add a full rotation to whatever I have, I will stop in the same place. And if I keep adding another rotation, I get to the same place. If I add another rotation, I get to the same place. So this is a way of thinking how to determine if an angle is coterminal to the other. Or just find what is the coterminal angle, because there are infinitely many coterminal angles, pairs of coterminal angles. So given one angle, you can find another one just by simply adding 360 to that angle. So you're going to get another angle that also has the same position for the terminal side. So that would be a coterminal angle. Now, if I can add 360, keep adding 360, I just get another angle, another angle, another angle just by adding 360. So I get infinitely many coterminal angles, the initial angle that I had. Now, if I add, I get angles. If I subtract, I get other angles. So they are also coterminal. So you could be subtracting in order to, meaning going towards the negative, the other direction of rotation to actually get other angles by means of subtraction. Okay, so what are we seeing here in this example given by the textbook, the 240 degrees and 600 degrees, you can see that that's true. Because let's say you start with 240, if you add a full rotation, which is 360 degrees, you get 600. So they are both coterminal angles. So if you subtract 360 from 240, you're going to get another angle, which is negative 120. So negative 120 degrees is also coterminal with 240, which is also coterminal with 600 because they have the same position for the terminal side. And if you, again, you keep going, subtracting more and more 360, you just get more and more negative angles that are coterminal with 240 degrees. It really depends what the initial angle is. I started with 240 and subtract 260. I got negative 120. But let's say if I have 500, and I'm going to draw here. I have 500 degrees and I want to get a coterminal angle with that, let's say by subtraction. Right? So I subtract the 360. But notice that I still got a positive angle because 500 was way bigger than the negative rotation that I did. So I still got a positive angle as a result. But I went towards the negative direction when I did the subtraction. When you add, you're going towards the positive direction of angles. But the result really is going to depend on what was your original number that you had. If that's big enough, you're probably still going to have a positive number. If that is small, like 240 compared to 360 negative, you get a negative number. We're going to skip the drawing. I want to actually focus on the computation, okay? So please go over these handouts. Be sure that you understand. Try to do yourself the examples. So let me start, let's say part A and B. Yeah, let's do A. Okay, so given the angle negative 300 degrees, I want to find a coterminal angle with that. And notice that the exercise saying not any coterminal, the coterminal angle I'm looking for has to be between 0 and 360, right? So I need to be sure that my answer is going to be an angle between 0 and 360 that is coterminal with negative 300 degrees. Now, negative 300. Should I be adding or subtracting in order to get a number that's going to be between 0 and 360, positive 0 and 360? What do you think? I should add, because if I subtract, I just get more negative numbers out of it, because the initial number is negative. With another negative, you just get more negative, right? So you should think, oh, let me add 360, so I'm trying to go towards the positive direction, so I get a positive answer in the end. Let's add 360 degrees. Obviously, the result here is positive 60, right? The bigger number, 360, is positive, so the answer should be positive. Okay, so my answer is good because it is a number between 0 and 360 degrees, which is coterminal with negative 300. So these are coterminal angles. These two angles are coterminal. So we have 540 degrees. And we want to subtract to bring down the number to something between 0 and 360. So let me subtract once. So if you subtract, you can see you get 180 degrees. And that number is between 0 and 360 degree positive. So both 540 and 180. So please try to do letter C and D, but notice that they are way bigger. So meaning for the negative 837, you're going to have to do the subtraction more than once. So actually, let me do letter C just to give an example, and then you do letter D at home by yourself. So I have, let me see, pinky, negative 837 degrees. I obviously needed to go towards the positive direction of the numbers because this is a negative number. So I'm going to add 36. So if I add once, I get 477, I believe, 477 degrees, but negative. So it's not good because it's still a negative number. I have to bring more towards the positive direction. So I'm going to add one more time. So if I add one more time, I'm going to still be in the negatives, negative 117. So it's not enough. So add one more time. And then I believe it's going to be 243. Now, 243 is an acceptable answer because the problem is asking between 0 and 360, positive. So negative 837 degrees and 243 are coterminal. So these are coterminal angles. But the answer one is really this one because, by the way, negative 477 is coterminal and negative 117 is also coterminal, but it's not the type of answer I'm looking for because I need between 0 and 360. Okay, so this is how we actually determine other angles that are coterminal to a particular angle in the beginning. By the way, this could be written differently. For example, you can see here the case of negative 837. I had to do multiple times this. So sometimes you have to do this many times, so you don't want to write too many times, but you have an idea how to get there. So one other way of writing this, how to get to the answer you want for the same case here. For example, I have negative 837 degrees, and I know I need to keep adding a certain number of times 360 to go towards the positive direction. So I know in my head that I should be 3 times the 360. Instead of adding one time, add another time, add another time, I already say, hey, 3 times that will bring me to what I want, which is 243. So you can just write like that if you want as well. So you don't need to do all this step-by-step computation to get where you need.